Okay, cool. So today we're talking about Node.js. Let's remind ourselves what that is. I'm going to ask Long, because he is right next to me, what is Node.js?
Data?
What is it?
Data. Any other guesses?
Zeros and one. Block codes.
Block codes, is that what you said? Oh, like a block of code in between curly braces?
Sure.
No. All right. Anyone want to help Long out? Tom.
Yeah, I think that the environment to run JavaScript.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. So it is a runtime environment for JavaScript. Previously, the only runtime that we've come across was in the browser itself, right? So now we're talking about being able to run JavaScript just through the terminal or on a server. Okay? All right. So let's go check that out. We'll look up Node.js real quick and just, whoops, I wanted to do an actual search. So if we search for it here, you can find it on Wikipedia, and you can see that the initial release here was actually not too terribly long ago, back in 2009. And the guy who originally authored this, his name is Ryan Dahl. And he has also created a newer runtime called Dino. I don't know if anyone has heard of this, but actually it's a runtime environment that is based off of TypeScript. And I think at one point it was built on Rust. It might be built on something else now. But anyway, legend has it he put together Node.js quite quickly. I want to say in like a week or something like that.
That's what I was reading.
Yeah, so he's a bit of a boss.
So casual.
Yeah, so casual. So you can see here the stable release, according to this, it's 13.0.1. The long-term support version, though, as you can see here, if you go to nodejs.org, the current long-term support version is 12.13.0. Okay? And this is also where you'll go when you're going to install Node on your computer. However, I want to make a slight caveat here that you can use something called Node Version Manager if you're so inclined. Okay, and if I don't have the link on the schedule, I'll put it up there as well. But what Node Version Manager allows you to do is it allows you to very easily load up different versions of Node on your computer. So you can have multiple versions on your computer and just kind of like switch between them very easily. Very easy to uninstall, very easy to install. It's an awesome, awesome tool. Okay, but if you're just going to install it the standard way, go here to nodejs.org, and you can see you can just download it here. Recommended for most users. This website also has all the documentation for Node.js. So if you click the docs link up there, it'll take you here, and then you'll see we've got some different versions over on the side that we can check the docs for. So if we're looking for this long-term support version, the 12.13.0, we can click on that, and you can see that we have a whole bunch of documentation. All right. Now, some of the things that we're not going to be using a lot of these things, but a couple of the things we will be using. One of the built-in modules for Node is called the Filesystem Module. Okay? And if we find that over here, you can just click on it, and you can see that we've got a whole bunch of different methods that we can use here within Filesystem. One of the things that we may want to do with Filesystem is we might want to read a file. Right? So if you just search for that on the page, read file, maybe we can find it one of these days. Here it is, fs.readFile. Okay? So you can see it gives us the function signature here that we need to provide a path to the file that we're trying to read. And then you can see that we've got this optional options argument here. And then we also have a callback function. What do you guys think the callback function is for?
Function to run
wants you a function to run inside another function at a different time.
So once the file has been read, right, we may want to do something with it. Okay, that's what the callback function is for. We can then do something with the file information that we got back. Okay, there's also another function called readFileSync. Let's click on that real quick. Okay, so you can see this function actually doesn't have a callback argument in it. It simply has the path argument and then also this optional options argument. So we could use readFileSync to actually not have to pass in a callback. If I just want to set a reference to the file content, I can run readFileSync, okay, and that will act synchronously. In other words, I don't have to do my logic inside the callback. I can just set a reference to whatever came back from the file, right? Another thing that we're probably going to use is going to be readdir. So let's fs promises. That's not the version I want. Where is it? Hang on one second. fs.readdir. Okay. So same kind of deal here. If we want to actually read a directory, we'd pass in the path to the directory that we want to read, an optional options argument, and then again a callback, right? So the callback should provide us a reference to the array of files that was in that directory. Or if we don't want to use that using callbacks, we've got this handy version here, readdirsync. Okay? So what that would give us back is actually the array of files that were in that directory. Cool. All right. Now, one thing that I want to get across with you guys is that because we're running this on our computer or on a server, the actual API behind it is going to be a little bit different than the API that's used with the browser. Okay. So certain things that we can do inside a browser, I can't necessarily do inside Node. So let's go inside of our console here. And let's say I just wanted to alert the user to something. Does anyone know how I do that? Whoa. Very good. Yeah, exactly. We can just call the alert function, right? Okay, so if I say alert hello, then we actually get this little alert box, right? Okay. Let's try that in Node. Do you think this is going to work in Node?
No.
No. Very good. Yeah, good guess. Okay, so if I go down here, and let me just exit out here. Okay, so let me make this a little bigger too. Okay, so we got a couple ways that we can run Node on our computer. We can either run it through a shell, and you guys probably remember when we were doing Python, we could also run Python in the shell, right? Or we could run an actual Node file, or just a JS file. I can run a JS file directly in my terminal. Okay. But if I just type in Node, and before I do that, I'm just going to check my version real quick and show you guys here. So if we want to know what Node version we're running, Node-V. Okay, that'll tell you what version you're running on your computer. So if I want to run it though, all I got to do is type in Node, and I get myself a little Node shell. Cool. So let's try to alert something, right? Uh-oh. Yeah, so we have this reference error, right? Alert is simply not defined. Okay. What's another thing that we can do inside our browser JavaScript? Let's say that we want to ask a user a question, right? We want to get some response to them. Do you guys know a response from them? How we would do that? Prompt. Yeah, exactly. So let's prompt them. Let's say prompt. What is your name? and then you could type it in and then press OK, right? And then whatever result we got back, we could do something with that if we wanted to. Okay, let's go back into our Node terminal here and try to do the same thing. So if I say prompt, what is your name? Uh-oh. Same thing, right? We don't have access to prompt inside Node. Okay. One thing that we do have access to inside Node is this keyword require. So if I want to require some other file inside Node, I can use require to do so. I'm not really sure what's in this directory, so I'm not going to show you guys require, but we'll get to that later when we're actually requiring files inside Node. And then I'm going to test it in the browser. We'll see that require is simply not even available inside the browser. Okay. So let's go here. Let's say I want to require something. I don't know. File.js. Doesn't matter that it doesn't exist because, of course, require itself does not exist. I don't have a function called require where I can bring in some outside code inside browser JavaScript. Okay. So as far as what you can use in Node.js, again, the docs are going to be at nodejs.org, and you can look up any different thing that you might want to use. The docs for your browser-based JavaScript should be at mdn browser. Let's see, JavaScript docs, and I believe I have the link up to this on the schedule. Let me double check here. Yeah, so right here we've got the Mozilla Web API right here. You guys can just follow that link if you want to take a look at what's available to us in the browser. Okay, we've got HTML drag and drop API. That's kind of nice. Has anyone ever played with that? No? All right. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, cool. So what else do we want to cover here? So we've downloaded phones off. All right, so we've downloaded the latest version of Node, or at least if we're using Node Version Manager, we've got it. We've checked the version. Let's demonstrate actually running a file. So let's just create a file. Let me get out of this real quick. Okay, and I'll just create a file, example.js. What do we want to have happen in here? Console log hello. Our favorite. Yeah, that's pretty fun, right? Whoa, shoot. Okay, so the way that we're going to run this is we're just going to say node and then the name of the file. Super simple. Just go node example.js. And there we go. All right. Now normally we're going to be running our files using NodeMon. You guys remember why I was saying we're going to use NodeMon most of the time? How does that help with our server development? You guys remember me using NodeMon yesterday?
Yeah.
Anyone remember that? Yeah, wasn't that nice that it was hot reloading for me every single time, right? Okay, so let me show you guys how to install that. In Node, we have a package manager. What was the package manager that we used inside or with Python? Pip. Okay. And then for you guys who came from Java, what package manager were you using?
When we were in Spring Boot.
Uh-huh.
I just remember installing Spring Boot.
Oh, we would install you mean something that would automatically reload the server?
No, it's just a package manager that would help you manage whatever packages you had in a specific project.
Oh.
Starts with an M. Maven.
Maven. Yes.
Maven. There we go. All right, good. Cool.
Too long.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Would Nodemon also be like when we're using DevTools in Java? Like does the same thing? Slightly different.
Not quite the same. Yeah, I mean, Nodemon doesn't give us a full framework where we can sort of look at all these different things. But mainly, what it's doing is just restarting our server for us, right? So it's checking to see if files have been changed. If they have, then it restarts for us, which is super nice. Okay, so the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use the package manager from Node. It's called NPM. Okay, that stands for Node Package Manager. So when you install Node, you're automatically going to have NPM on your computer. So if I want to install a package, I can say npm install. Oops. And if I want to install it globally so that I have access to it everywhere, not just in a specific project, I can say npm install -g. So that means global. And then I'm just going to do nodemon here. Okay, so we installed nodemon. Now we can use it anywhere we are, right? So now I can say nodemon example.js. Okay, so we logged out hello. That's what we've got now. If I make a quick change to this, then there we go. Very nice, right? It's going to make our development experience quite nice. All right, so that's how to get our hot reloading going. Let's go down here. We took a look at some of the differences there. Oh, another thing that we don't have access to inside Node that we have access to in the browser is the window object. So if I come in here and I say console.log window, what's going to happen here? Reference error, right? Window is not defined. Okay, and then nodemon will crash here, and it'll basically tell you we're waiting for file changes before we can reload. Cool. So if we go inside the browser, however, I do have a reference to window, and I can log it out. Okay, so window has all kinds of different properties on it. As you can see, a whole bunch of different things. Inner height, inner width. Kind of cool. Telling us how high this window height is, right? All right. We also have reference in the browser to something called document. Have you guys used that at all? So we could say console.log document. And here we go. We actually have the HTML document. Cool. You think we have that in Node? How many people think that I can console log document in Node? Nobody?
If you define document.
Very good. All right. So same thing, right? Document is not defined. Okay, cool. All right. What else do we want to do? We probably want to build a server inside inside Node. Okay. So first, what we're gonna do is basically we're gonna start a new project. So I'm just gonna create an example project where we create a very simple server. All right. So let me dump this real quick. Close that guy out. We'll get out of here. Okay, so I want to create a new project. I'm just going to make a directory. So let's do make dir example server, and I'm going to cd right into that. Okay, cd example server. No, I didn't. Whoops. cd example server. All right, now we're in here. So let's initialize a project. And the way that we do that with our package manager, npm, is we say npm init. Okay. Okay, now notice how it's now asking me some questions, saying what is the package name? Okay, and you can see in parentheses it's telling us what it's gonna do by default if we just press enter. So if I want my package name to stay example server, I can just click enter. Version, I can provide a description if I want. Okay, I can do an entry point if I want, test command, get repository, keywords, author, license, and then it's going to ask, is this okay? It's actually showing you what this file called package.json is going to look like when we're done here. Okay, so package.json basically has a bunch of information about our specific project. Okay, so if I say yes, then we're good to go. And now I'm just going to code this directory so that we can take a quick look at it. Hey, check that out. It created this file for me, right? So we've got the name of our package. We've got a version. We've got a description, which is just blank here. The main, this is the default entry point for the package. And then I've got this scripts object here, which we're not going to use quite yet, and potentially an author and potentially a license. Okay, cool. This is where we will also be managing our dependencies as well. So if I install a package to use in my project, it's going to show up in my dependencies list here in this file. Okay. All right, cool. So let's go back to the platform here, and we're going to explore just creating a basic node server. So you can see in the platform they've given you just some boilerplate code here. Let's drop this in, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so I don't have an index.js, but I can create that file. That would basically be my entry point. Or I can call it something else. What if I want to call it server.js? No problem with that, right? So I'll just come over here. We'll say server.js. And inside that, I'm just going to paste in the code that we got from the platform. Did we get an extra copy? Oh, I knew it. Have you guys noticed this when you paste things in from the platform? Copy always kind of shows up out of nowhere. Okay, cool. So let's talk about this code here. So we talked a little bit earlier about the require keyword, and that means that I'm bringing in some outside code for use in my file. Right? So const HTTP, that means that we are creating a constant variable. Okay? And we're setting that equal to the return value of requiring the HTTP module. Okay? Notice how we don't have any pathing here, so it's not like we're actually creating a path to the HTTP module. That's because that module is available automatically in Node. Okay? That's not something that we have to install separately. However, later on we will be installing some things that are not available by default in Node. Okay? What's happening here on line 2, Anna? Line 2. No idea? All right, Brian.
Requiring like a node function.
So first right here, this const is a little bit different for us because probably most of you guys have been using var, right? Okay.
Is that kind of like final?
Yeah. Essentially, right? It's we're creating this constant variable that is not going to change. I put that in quotes because we could potentially change properties on it. If it's an object, we can change properties on it. Now we're not going to here, but because this is again a built-in module, right? Okay. So what's happening here, Brian?
We're making a constant variable called fs.
We're declaring a constant variable called fs. Good. And then what's happening over here?
And then we're requiring an outside fs.
Mm-hmm.
File system.
Right. So we're requiring the file system module. Exactly. Good. Yes, Michael.
So what happens if you try to reassign fs?
Error.
So whatever you declare.
So if I come down here and I say, okay, fs is now 5. Can't do that. Okay. Now I could theoretically. So we looked at a couple of the functions with that are available through fs. What if I wanted to change the read file function? Could I do that?
Yes.
I can. Yeah. So it's not, when we see the constant, like most of the time people are thinking constant, okay, it's completely unchangeable. That's not quite true. I can change properties on it.
But you shouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. But it won't. But it wouldn't throw an error if I did it. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's keep going. Miguel, line 4. What's happening here?
On server, so you're is that a function?
Well, okay, but
Right,
first,
server is,
tell us what's happening here.
You're making a const server variable and putting an http.createServer method.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So we're actually invoking the createServer method that's available through the HTTP module. Okay.
And it's taking in a request and response. Is that what that is?
What is it taking in? Have you guys seen this type of syntax before?
Arrow function.
An arrow function, right? Okay. So what is this then? If this is a function, what would we typically call this function? A route, is it? Okay. It's a callback function, right? So this is the function that we want to run when we create the server. Okay, cool. And then you'll notice that this function takes in a couple arguments as well. So it's the request and the response. Okay, cool. Let's keep going inside the body of this callback function and see if we can understand it pretty well. Anthony, what's happening here on line 15?
15? Did you say 15?
5. Man, my brain.
We have a if statement.
Yeah, we have an if statement. Okay. So what are we asking here?
If request that URL.
Is that a triple equal?
Yeah, what is it?
That is a triple equals. Yeah, it's
man.
I have ligatures set up on my VS Code. Sorry about that. What is that?
It's like long equals.
What?
Ligature. So you have to install this font called Fira code, and then you have to turn on ligatures in your settings, and then you'll be able to get the triple equals. You'd also get something like this fat arrow here if you're using arrow function. It's kind of nice looking. Yeah.
So we're checking if it's a route.
Okay, specifically what route though? So if it's forward
The
slash,
index.
that would be the index route, right? Okay. And then if it is that route, what are we doing at that point on line 6?
Then with module fs.
Good.
That read file.
Right.
We have the parameters and then there is no callback. Is there a
Are you
callback?
sure?
Arrow.
Yeah.
That's what
Here,
the
let me
arrow-
shrink it slightly. Yeah, sorry about that. The arrow got pushed to the next line. So see, again here we've got one of these arrow functions, right? Okay. So what we're passing in here is the name of the file, the encoding of the file, and then the callback. So once we've successfully read the file, what do we want to do? Potentially we could have also gotten errors reading the file, okay? Now we didn't really handle that in there, but you know, we'll have to make sure that that file's there so that we don't get errors, right? All right, very good. So here's what we're doing on line 7. You can see that we're actually writing a response code. Okay, you guys come across those response codes before? What kinds of response codes have you seen before? 200, 400, 404. Yeah, exactly. Maybe 401, unauthorized, something like that, right? Okay. And then we're also saying what is the content type. So the content type here is text HTML. All right. The other thing that we're doing is we're taking the contents that we got back from the file, and then we're passing that through to the response. We're writing those contents to the response so that when we give this information back to the browser now has the actual HTML, right? And then finally, response.end, well, you can see we're invoking something here, right? On the response object, we're just invoking the end method, meaning this request response cycle is done. Okay, cool. Let's look at the else if. Alex, what's happening there? Can you see this okay?
Yeah.
All
right. It's the same thing, but for Nodejs HTML.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fileserver.refile. And then Nodejs HTML. Basically the same as the first one. As the next one.
Yeah, so the process is the same. We're looking for this specific file. This is the encoding of the file, right? And then we have this callback function that's going to run. So it's going to take the contents of the file. We're going to write an actual response code. We're going to pass back the contents, and then we're going to end the response. Okay. Finally, what's going to happen here on line 19, Jessica?
The request URL doesn't for anything, then you just end it and say that the file is not there.
Okay. Most of that was correct, but what do you mean if it doesn't equal anything?
So if the URL isn't the index for Nodejs.html.
Right, exactly. So it'll still be something. It's just it's not one of these two, right? Okay, cool. All right. And then we come down here on line 23. What do you guys think is happening there? Yeah, I mean, this is the port right here, okay, but what is the server.listen? What does that mean?
You started the server.
Yeah, we started the server and we're listening at this specific port, right?
Is that
Okay.
adding an event? Is that what that,
It's listening for any.
the dot listen? Does
Is it
count
adding
as-
an event?
Does that count as?
Just a function.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're just invoking a function here.
Okay.
But the events that we're going to be listening for are going to be actual page requests, right? So if we pass through a page request on our browser, that's the event that's then going to set off this cycle here. It's going to actually trigger our callback function, okay, that will then have access to the request and the response. All right. So in order to make this work, we do need to create this file index.html, right? Because we don't have that currently. All right. Let's go inside here and let's create index.html. Just put some content in here, and then we'll say hello node. Okay, cool. It should be most of what we have to do, and I think what we'll also do is that when we hit a request, I'm just going to log out the request object so that you guys can take a look at it. Okay, it's actually quite large. Yeah. All right. So inside here, let's just console log.
I think you had a question.
What?
Oh, I had a quick question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice.
For the request URL, so you have to put .html at the end, or can you just put like dojo? I mean, it's a little bit confusing for that. Because the first one was index, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second one it says else if request URL.
Well, we could be listening for whatever specific route we want. If I wanted to listen looked for Dojo without the .html, yeah, I could do that.
Okay, yeah, because typically when you like have like on a browser or something, you don't have the HTML at the end. So
Yeah, it depends on the website. A lot of older websites might have a .html extension, but the trend has been to go for more pretty URLs, right? Ones that don't have things in it that humans wouldn't understand. Or not humans, but normal people, when they see the .html, it's like that doesn't mean anything to them, right? Okay. So yeah, I could easily change that. If we want to listen for Dojo, we'll create a Dojo page as well so that we actually have something for that. So if I go up in here, let's create that file, dojo.html, same thing, and then we'll just say this is the Dojo page. Oops, okay, cool. So let's actually run this server. Let's go in here and we'll use our Nodemon. That way if we make any changes to it, they'll be instantly reflected and it'll restart. Okay, so we'll say Nodemon server.js. Okay, and you can see that we got our console log down at the bottom of that server.js where it's telling us we're now listening at this port, right? So I can go to port or localhost 6789. Let's go in here. 6789. Okay. There's hello node. Now if I go to /dojo, this is the Dojo page. Right? Hey, I like jokes. What's a joke?
Nothing.
No? Something's funny.
There was a theory.
Did I make a boo-boo?
No, there was just a theory that it was going to crash. And it was disproven.
Why did you guys think it was going to crash?
Because I had experience crash when I did it.
Oh, is that because you hadn't created the dojo.html
No.
yet, or?
It was because it was some weird thing where you had to comment out response.write and then put contents in the end function instead of the write function. Like it would crash and give me like a write before end or a write after end error.
Huh, that's weird. But you had this order the same? You hadn't moved right past the end?
But I literally copied and pasted it and then threw me that error.
God, that's so strange. What version of Node are you running?
Originally I was on the latest 13, and then I used NVM to go to like 12, and I tried 8 and 6.
They were all giving
They
you
all
problems?
gave me the
No kidding. Man, that's so strange.
Should use VS Code.
same error. No, that's not a VS Code problem.
Man, that's pretty odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vim specific thing, right? Okay. All right, so we did log the request object, I believe. So let's take a quick look at that. Where do I have it? Oh, example server. Okay, so in here, weren't we logging the request object? Oh, I never did it. Whoops. All right. Request. So just reload that. Let's look at it. Woo! It is a monster. It's it's so large that I can't even get to the top of it here. So it's this very large scrollable object here. Yeah, we could do that. So you can see we also have a lot of information about the connection here. We have some headers here. So these are all the headers. Raw headers. Check this out. I can get some information about the browser that I was using as well. That's kind of cool. Client socket. Whew. Pipes. Anyway, this is not something that you guys need to like delve into on at any level. I just wanted to show you this request object is quite large, and we're not going to be using Node to create servers directly like this indefinitely, we're ultimately going to use something else. What do you guys remember from the MEAN acronym?
Express.
Express. Yes, we'll be using that to create servers. All right. Let's check our code real quick and make sure everyone has a pretty good idea what was happening here. Do we have any questions about what this code was doing?
I have a question about response. So the response is an object.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that response object, as you can see, has some different functions that we're calling here, like write head, write, and end.
Do you create it, or is that part of the method? Or, I mean, do you have to?
Yeah, we're not creating it. This is coming from the HTTP module.
Okay.
But again, we're not going to keep writing servers this way the whole time, because you could see how this could become quite I don't know. It's not very succinct. You know, if the URL is this thing, do this. If the URL is that, do that.
A lot of copy and paste.
Yeah, just a lot of.
Just make that a function.
Feels like there's some boilerplate happening here, right? We're going to find a better way to handle that.
So would this be like Flask, and then the Express is Django?
No. No, I would say actually Express is a little bit more like Flask because it's more of a micro framework. Yeah. But this would be like almost if we were, you know, obviously we're not writing a server from scratch here, but it's a little bit more lower level than Express. Express kind of abstracts some things for us to make our job easier. Okay, and there are other server frameworks for Node too. There are a whole bunch of them. Happy is one of them. Yeah, but that's spelled H-A-P-I. Okay, there are a bunch of other ones as well too. But Express is definitely the most popular and the most used one. So if we go on one site that I wanted to show you guys too is npmjs.com. I don't know why I was thinking .org. So here we can actually search for packages, things that we may want to use inside our projects. Okay, so if I search for Express, I get Express here, and let's check out the weekly download stats on that. 10 million, 10 plus million.
Also, Express is a package for Node.
Correct. Yeah. So this is something that later on we'll be installing for individual projects, and we'll use that to create our servers rather than the HTTP module.
Is that created by MIT? Is that why it says that? Or
No, that's just the license.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Node was created first, and then it wasn't Ryan Dalton who created the rest of this, like the rest of the parts of it as well.
Correct. Yeah. Ryan Dahl was the guy behind Node, but of course, all these other outside developers have developed tons and tons of packages. There are literally millions of NPM packages available. So as I said, there are other frameworks too. We could look up Happy, Happy Joy. What?
No, yeah, that's what he said.
There's Happy Server Session. Framework. I don't know why that wasn't popping up as like a direct match here, but so yeah. This is another possible server-side framework that you can use in Node.
Black Fridays.
API.
Crazy.
Yeah, so like this would be an example of how we could create a server with Happy, right? Server equals happy.server. All right, cool. But again, there are a number of other different server-side frameworks that you can use with Node. The one that we're going to be using in this stack is Express. Okay, but we're not going to cover that yet today. I was just showing you guys how we can create a server without installing any extra dependencies on a project. Okay, just using the built-in Node modules. All right, cool. Let's have thumbs on what we did today. You doing good? All right, cool. Excellent. So as I said, later on we can meet up and do an Ajax demo, follow up on that Star Wars thing. All right? Cool. Have fun, y'all.